conversation with, you might start over at 0. Are you okay with that? It takes all the fear away. It's all of a sudden like, oh my God, I can't do this. Yes, you can. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work, and we'll start over. You get this you just get this energy.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the new episode of Ecom 365. I'm co-founder and CEO of ShopAgain.io. For this episode, I have a special guest with me. Mary is the CEO and co-founder of Cosmo Glow. Mary ran a lash salon in Los Angeles for several years. When COVID hit, she quickly pivoted to building a beauty room lighting product. She wanted to fix the lighting problem in her own salon. Fast forward to now, her product is patented in 27 countries. And we are going to hear her story of how she brought innovation to spa and treatment rooms. Thanks for joining us, Mary. How are you doing today?
I'm great. Thank you so much for having me. It's great to be here.
Tell us your story about how you were able to pivot during COVID and how you turned it into a success.
Yeah, absolutely. COVID affected everyone and it affected each person differently. And I'm no different. I had a salon in Los Angeles and we were the highest rated salon. We were so busy. We had a fully running staff. We were fully busy with clients every day with a waiting list. I had my schedule. People would book weeks in advance, sometimes months. And everything was great. And then one day it was, according to state regulations, we have to close our doors for an unforeseen amount of time, and nobody knew what was around the corner. And so as we all experienced, just mass panic and what do we do now? And where's my next paycheck coming from? And my rent's still due. And we definitely took a couple of days to cry it out and just mope around. I ate way too much chocolate and drank way too much wine, trying to figure out what's next, what happens, what's going on with this, what's going on with my business, how am I going to pay rent? How is everything going to come about? And all those questions I think were normal, and everyone went through it, and we were able to get kind of some things situated. Our landlord worked with us. We were able to contact all of our clients and say, we may be closed, but we're not going anywhere. We'll be here when we reopen. And then it was take a step back. So after that, I was so frustrated, and it was like a light bulb just hit me one day where it's like, my gosh, Mary, you sell yourself every single day. If I ever had the time, I would pursue this thing I had been working on my side project. And here you are just gifted an empty schedule. Like you were just gifted, you don't have to care for your salon anymore or your staff. You were just gifted an entire empty schedule. This is exactly what you asked for. Like you got your answer or your prayer answered. And so once I realized that, like, oh my God, this is my time to shift, to pivot. And let's face it, we all thought it was 3 weeks long, right? So in 3 weeks, I'll be back in my salon. So I knew I had to hustle double time. And I had been working on a prototype since 2019. And a prototype is just a raw piece of machinery. It's a raw piece of your idea. So I have been working on a light for the salon industry because up until mine, there was no industry specific lighting. And the lights we used were crafting lights or the ring lights. But the problem is you're over someone's face. So you really don't want to be giving them a ton of heat. And a lot of these lights would just amplify the heat. And then there's the other issue of they stand up. They're getting a little ring light so you can be on your TikTok videos. So to bend them over would almost break them and they would be falling. You'll be doing a service and halfway through they just give away. And you're like, oh my God, let me capture it before it falls on my client. You have a mini heart attack. And then you're in a treatment room over a bed and those lights only reach halfway. So you have to have 2 of them. And now you have 2 tripods. And in California, those rooms are so small that you are constantly tripping over the tripods and the lights and they're falling on your clients. And it's a whole disaster. So I thought, okay, let me figure this out. I know what I want in my head. And if I can get it into a real product, I want to do it. And it's as simple as, and this is for everyone that has an idea, because we all have such valuable, amazing ideas. And my whole claim to fame is out here helping you guys. I'm a lash artist. I come from the salon industry. I didn't know what manufacturing was. I had to Google it because it's the art and skill of taking a raw material into consumer goods, but no one teaches you that. So I went back and my long story short is if I can do it, so can everyone else. And I took a napkin sketch of what it would look like that would have a flat base, no tripods. It would look like the top of those old school tanning beds and give you light from ear to ear. So there'd be no shadows. You would only need one light, and it would move so you could get any surface you needed to for any treatment you were doing. And I had them in my treatment room, and they were not safe looking. There's wires hanging out, but it worked. And I knew as soon as we plugged it in, it was like, this is going to change the industry. This is crazy. And then they sat. And it wasn't until COVID happened where all of a sudden it's like, you asked for this to happen. You asked to have the time. You were just gifted the time. Get going on this. And instantly I found a manufacturer. Well, not instantly. It took a lot of research, but I found a manufacturer. We chose to manufacture in the USA because we weren't sure what was happening with overseas. Things were closing all over. Restrictions were left and right. Each country had their own protocols for what was allowed in or out, if the community was open, if it was closed. And we thought, okay, let's just, for safety, keep it in the USA. That way I have full hands on the product at all times. Now I'm so thankful I manufacture in the USA, but we were able to find somebody in my local area and make a light. And we started with an order of 150 lights. And it was, that whole idea of, I'm going to give it all I have. And if it fails, I have nothing. But also, if I don't take this time, I also missed a beautiful opportunity that I'm probably never going to get again. And so I took everything I had and had a conversation with myself. You're almost 40. If you start over, are you okay with that? And I thought to myself, I know people that started over at 40, at 45, at 60, at 65, and they're thriving in life. So once you have that conversation with, you might start over at 0. Are you okay with that? It takes all the fear away. It's all of a sudden like, oh my God, I can't do this. Yes, you can. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work, and we'll start over. You get this you just get this energy. And so I had that energy where it's like, okay, I'm unstoppable now. I already know what the worst case scenario is, and I'm okay with having that. So let's go. And we placed the order for 150 lights. We set up our website. I mean, it was instant, and it was all me. It was like me clicking through Shopify going, do I like this background or do I like that? Do I like this logo? Do I like that logo? And my order was placed, let me see here, around May 2020. So we closed in March. It took me about May 2020 to really commit to doing it. My website went up June 1st. My first sales were June 15th, and I was sold out by August. And those lights, all 150, came to production. By the time I got my first batch shipping, I had signed up for a second batch, and that batch was sold out. So I had already known, oh my God, this is going to change the industry. It's going to take off. I had no idea how big it would get, but it was the shift of being able to identify the time and the place and your opportunity of a gift that was given to you of time and run through that door as fast as possible. And by the time our salons reopened in January of 2021, I was doing both. So I went back in, and all of a sudden I'm handling clients all day long, and everyone wanted to come back. So we were doing 8-hour, 9-hour, 10-hour days. I was managing a staff. I was managing my second business. We are now shipping lights every single day, every single week. And it led me to sell my salon in March of 2021, because the idea of my, the invention I had in my head, it was so much bigger than me. And I want to throw that out there to all the audience too. If you guys have an idea and you think it's just you, you don't realize that you're just one person in one city out of how many cities in your state? Out of 50 states, out of almost 200 countries, in 7 continents. If you have this idea, it's so much bigger than you. And I think we get stuck on not pursuing our idea because it's just something I want for myself. But if you have a good enough idea and it has the potential to change the world, then it's your duty to bring that out and help, because you can change industries, you can change people's lives and improve them and make them better. And in the end, change yours as well. And so that's my story of how I launched it. And it was just taking a napkin sketch of what I wanted to have CAD drawings done. And once you have those CAD drawings, you can go and talk to a manufacturer who takes your idea seriously. And then you talk about how many your starting order is, and don't expect to make money right off the bat, because that's just not how it's laid out, but you've got to get going. And then place your first order, your second order, your third order, and then it grows from there. And now, oh my God, we do so much. We're on top of the world. It's amazing. And we were able to change an entire industry just from that little idea. So if you have these ideas, Just think about how big they could get. And it was gifted to you for a reason, so you can bring that idea to pass.
That's a powerful story, Mary. Thanks for sharing that. In fact, it reminded me of one sentence I heard from my mentor almost 2 decades back. He told me that no two people have the same gifts. They are not born in the same family. They don't have the same education, same wealth, or same background, but everybody has the same amount of time to create the impact they want. So use it wisely. And it's absolutely inspiring how being free you took as an opportunity and decided to use that time to bring your ideas into life. uh, I want to hear more about it actually. So did you have any training in physical product design or not? How did you go about doing this?
I worked with a product developer. So I didn't personally come from the background. And I think that's another thing that people really get hindered on is I don't know how to do it, so therefore I can't do it. And that's wrong. It's you don't know how to do it, but other people make their entire living on doing this for you. And so when you can break down the barrier of I don't know how to do it, but someone does, and be able to hire them in, that's when you really have an idea you can go for. So many people get stopped on the starting line because they don't have all the skills. Well, you're not supposed to. If we all had all the skills, none of us would have specialties, and we wouldn't be able to make a living because we hone in on those specialties. So allow the people that have the specialties to do their job, and you bring forth the idea. And so I worked with a product developer, and it's amazing. I knew I wanted basics. I knew I wanted to be a piece of salon furniture with a flat base made of heavy metal that turned, but I didn't know how any of that works. Is it even possible? And then they break it down into what material do you want it to be made of? Is it plastic? Is it aluminum? Is it heavy metal? I'm like, oh no, definitely heavy metal. I want this thing to be a piece of sustainable furniture. This is not going to tip over. I was so scared of the mini heart attacks every time I would kick a tripod and I have to catch it while my client's sleeping and hope she didn't feel the gust of wind. It's going to be of that. And then you go through what shade and tone were you thinking for the color? Well, I dealt with eyelashes. It's individual pieces of hair. And at the end of the day, it's hard to see. So the brighter and the wider the light, the more you're going to be able to see that natural hair. And so I wanted to, I picked my tone, and then they asked me, how do you want it to move? Is it something you tap it and it just spins like a basketball on your finger? Or is it something it takes two hands to put in place? And I thought, oh my God, well, I don't want the air conditioner to come on and these lights start moving. So I want it to have some tension, and wherever you put it, it stays. So yeah, I want to be able to move it with two hands. That's the tension I want. And then it comes down to, well, how do you want it to be finished? Do you want it, we could spray paint it. You have a risk of chipping. We could powder coat it. That's going to be very long lasting, very durable. You'll be able to wipe down the surface. We were in the middle of COVID. Wiping down the surface was very, very, I wanted that. That was a feature that I had to have. And I thought, okay, let's go with the powder coating things. These are all things I didn't know what it was. I didn't even know what powder coating was. But when you get displayed the options, that's when you can dive into each one of these things a little bit more and have an understanding, and let the expert do their job. Who they understand how to make a product. They understand how to get all the pieces in a row to fit. And they also understand the manufacturing background of what's realistic to have it put together as quickly as possible, so that individual humans or machines can replicate that over and over and over again and give you your product. So it's not so much how do we have all the skills, it's letting someone else do their job and walk you through all of it. And then at the end, we saw the finished product and it was jaw dropping, oh my God, so much better. And let me tell you, they improved my design, because I went in and said, okay, I want it to be like that. And they said, well, it'll be better for everybody. We have a double pivot. And now you used to have two lights over each bed and they didn't move. Where we have a double pivot. Now, when you don't want to deal with the light anymore, you just put it and glides away flat against the wall. So now there's no lighting apparatus over your bed. So if you have an elderly client that needs help getting up, there's nothing over top of her. Or if you do a service where you want to turn down the lights, you're in the middle of a facial and you don't need a light over you, then you can glide it off to the side. And that's something that was brought to me from the designing factor that they help you make the product better. I mean, I had my idea, but they strengthened it. And I think that's the biggest part of how does it work and where does it start? It's letting other people do their job. And this is what they do for a living. This is what they studied in school. They understand the background, and letting them take you on their journey to get the finished product that is the one that you then produce.
100% agree with you. And you made a great point there, Mary, that most everybody keeps getting, good ideas, but they tend to just not do anything about it because they think, yeah, I'm not the expert and I don't know how to do this. And the right approach is to speak to people who do know how to do that and use their expertise to bring your ideas to life. Tell me a little bit more about this, Mary. How did you find out the right expert? How did you know this expert can pull off what I want?
I think it was a little bit of just, I found a manufacturer that would work with me on a smaller scale. And this was the person that they worked with. And that was a big part of it too, because again, these fears where people have an idea, but they don't know where to start. And because of that, they just don't ever do it. You often think, oh, I have an idea, but it's going to cost me $1 million to sign on the dotted line. And I just don't have that in life. Neither did I. And it does take research. You have to find the right manufacturer, and each one's different because sometimes they're wood manufacturers and they do furniture. Sometimes it's electronics. Sometimes it's metals and fabrication. You have to find the right manufacturer for you. And then you have to ask the right questions. Nobody wanted to start an order of 150 lights. Nobody. It's a waste of their time. And quite frankly, that order was scary for me. It was terrifying. But when we can ask the right questions, I knew going into it, my product is so powerful that it has the potential to change the entire industry. And right now we're going to start with shipping in the USA, but my goal is to be global. And I filed patents in 27 countries, and we plan on fulfilling in 27 countries. So yes, I know this little order of 150 lights is not worth your time. And really, quite frankly, neither is it for mine, but we have to start somewhere. And if you can make this product come to life for me, then we can get to where we are on a global scale, which is where we are now. We're about to enter into different markets. And it's really exciting because what we ship a week, I couldn't even fathom shipping that. I mean, a year, or maybe not a year, but when I first started, I wasn't even thinking that big. And I think that's where a lot of people get stuck is you don't have to have all the money up front on a red dotted line. It doesn't take 1 million units and $1 million. It's finding the right manufacturer. And that's research. My particular manufacturer is American based. And they had a meeting and they were thinking of ways, because they deal with huge companies, Amazon, Costco, Target, Best Buy, like major corporations. And they said, wouldn't it be cool if we had a program that would help people on a smaller scale take their ideas, and then we build the company with them and they retain as a client for life. And if we had a lifetime client and we took a couple of these clients over the course of how many years, how much would that benefit us? And I happened to be making the calls and the emails at the exact time they had these meetings of why don't we start and have someone on the smaller scale and build them up. And so they came with me going, actually, we just developed a program that you sound like the perfect client for us. We have no interest in making your small orders. We have an interest in you being a client with us for life. And our goal is to scale you as big as possible, as fast as possible. You have your patent filed in 27 different countries. That is why we want to do business with you. And that is why we're prepared to start you on a smaller order. And that's really what it was finding someone that was willing to work with you, who can also see the bigger picture. Because we're not even 2 years into this right now, and we're about to go global. And that anyone would love to have the order size that we have right now. Any manufacturer would sign up for it in the dotted line. But it's the person that invested in growing us as a company and saw the potential on a smaller order that was able to say, yes, we sign up with you knowing where the future goes. And now we're about to break that threshold what a beautiful relationship. And I am so blessed. And like I said, it is in the USA, which probably wouldn't have been my first place to go look. But because of all of the twists and turns with COVID, it led me to that direction. And now I wouldn't change the world for it. I mean, we have such a great connection. I have a meeting every week to go over just possible new things, which is always exciting, new colors. We have a new model coming out, and it's great to have that relationship to grow it and know that this is just us getting started. but they took a chance on someone's story and thought if we can grow them from the story all the way up, how great would that be for our bottom line? And for me, it was easy to, well, it wasn't easy, but I was able to find someone who started with a budget that was reasonable for me, and we've grown together. So I definitely got a little fortunate. But for us, it's been a beautiful thing to learn more about American manufacturing and just where it's going to go from here. And I think COVID changed a lot of things into what we used to rely on. Everything's changed. The game's changed. The prices have changed. The shipping options have changed. And it's almost like I think a lot more companies over the next 2 decades are going to come back to hometown manufacturing.
Amazing. What you mentioned, Mary, is very relevant to any new startup or venture. That any new venture initially faces the competition that you don't have as much money, as many resources to do everything you would want to do. And the way to go about it is to bring in people who share your vision, who can see not what you are right now, but what you can be, given the efforts, given the resources, given what you need. And those are the kind of people who become pillar to your success.
Absolutely. And it's funny, we started on such a small scale and we've grown it and we're going to continue to grow it, that our company, our manufacturer, had already said, man, we make Cosmo glows. We need like a product like Cosmo Glow. That came to us as a small idea and grew from there and now is about to go global. And it's funny because they've actually started self-producing their own products for the first time ever, not lights, not anything to do with my competition, but they really had a little brainstorming idea to figure out what they could make in-house because they own all the machinery. So instead of producing someone else's products and contract manufacturing, which is what they do, they did turn and take a new leaf based on my story to figure out what they could do in-house. And now they do. So it's really been a cool journey to watch them kind of sit back and go, whoa, whoa, whoa. We've watched her since day one. We could do our own products as well. And they have. So I think that's something too, when you're looking for manufacturers, you want to find someone that does see your idea and the potential and then negotiate. I mean, we negotiated ours. I made it that everything was due 30 days after the first one shipped. But by then I had pre-sales. So I pre-sold all my orders before the first one shipped. And I kind of, in a way, front ran all the money, which is where it comes in, where people say, oh, I need $1 million before I do this. You don't, you have to get very creative. I knew that mine was the only thing like that on the market and people would line up around the block. So I started selling them. And by the time that they were shipping, I was able to pay that invoice in full. So that's a good creative avenue as well, is just you're creative with how you're getting your funds. And sometimes, as in my case, it worked to do pre-sales.
That's a unique story. I haven't had a guest before who used pre-sale mechanism to actually fund his projects. Amazing. One point you mentioned, manufacturing in America, and I want to understand more about it. What are the benefits and hindrances you have faced with American manufacturing?
Right now, because of COVID, there is an on again, off again supply chain stressors based on shipping and based on places being open and closed. So what it used to cost to ship a shipping container over was no big deal. And I can't remember the exact amount of times, but it's something to the effect of 8 or 9 times the price has risen now. To the effect, and this is not quoted information, but it used to cost something like $8,000 to send over a shipping container. And now it's in the upwards of 20, 25, 26, sometimes 30. And then you have peak seasons, such as like the Chinese New Year, any holiday, and they get even more expensive. And we've all heard about what happened in Long Beach, where they stacked up 67 containers and they just sat there for 2 or 3 months. So when you're doing it overseas, you have to front run all the money because they need their invoice paid before they ship you your item. So you are paying for all of that stuff up front. Then you're paying for the shipping cost. So it's sitting in a container for 6 weeks if everything's according to plan. And then it has to come into a port. And depending on their processing, that could take another anywhere from 1 week, 2 months. And now you have to put it onto a truck and either take it to the distribution center, to wherever you're storing it, if they're shipping straight to the customer, and then you're waiting on shipping times. So that whole, if you add up how much time is lost in just transportation, it makes you want to judge how much would US manufacturing be? And in my situation, it was more expensive. 100%, it was more expensive than overseas. But having access to the product where I'm able to ship them, they currently are still made. And the day that they finish, they get shipped out that day. We keep no stock. They are produced and stickered on the same day, get picked up by FedEx and off to their new homes. So being able to manage a company with very little stock is much easier to manage than having to front run up to 2 or 3 months worth of stock that is constantly sitting in jeopardy, whether it be on a boat or be in a shipping container or be at a port, waiting for those to get to a point where now you can ship to reclaim your money. And worst case scenario, what if the product comes in damaged, or what if it comes in and it's defective? It's not up to the way you ordered it. Now you have lost stock. And so to restart the clock and get the order the way you want it, they have to build it, they have to ship it, they have to enter into a cargo phase. Now they have to get it back out. Where if I have an issue, we had a meeting today on Tuesday, and we made one change. It'll be implemented in 2 days. It's done. So being able to have a hands-on approach to always improving the product, always being able to make simple changes. I mean, we added a sticker to one piece because at the end of the day, people aren't getting it. We have it on the instructions, we have it in the assembly video, but people open up, they think they're like Joe Mighty and they can do it without it, throw the instructions to the side, and then they contact us going, I believe I stripped the screw because I didn't read the instructions, seeing that it was reverse threaded. So now we're adding a sticker that says this is reverse threaded. Left actually equals tighten. Left is not Lucy, left is tighten. And they're going to have those stickers starting in 2 days. So that's something that it's just so much more efficient for what we do than having to contact someone and in 3 or 4 months, the change is made. And even though it comes at a higher price point, there's so much less loss and there's so much less storage that you're paying for as the product's moving. And I think you're going to see more and more of that as the prices have just skyrocketed, whether it be cargo ships, air freight, any of the above. Even we've seen it in the US, how much gas has increased, the shipping charges have gone up. And so you want to keep those shipping charges as minuscule as possible. And that starts with having it go less places. We ship from California and they go all across the United States. And sometimes it's 1 day in training or 1 day in shipping that they go down to another city in California. Where if it was coming from overseas, that journey is months long and there's no way to shorten it. So I think that's where you're going to see the differences in shipping overseas and American manufacturing.
So that lays out a lot of great points, Mary. Definitely the cost of manufacturing is cheaper in China and abroad. But with the American manufacturing, you get a more tighter control over the product, over iterations, also over the timeline between when the product is built and when it actually reaches the end consumers. Those are all great points. After all this, tell me, what are the experience that you have gained in this process, which others can learn from?
Yeah, I mean, definitely I would start with way back at the beginning. If you're thinking about doing something that you're uncomfortable with and you're scared shitless to do it, have a conversation with yourself and think about the worst case scenario and lay it all out. And if you can be okay with the worst case scenario, then you'll be unstoppable, because worst case, you already know what's coming. And I think that's where a lot of people get stuck not starting, is they're too afraid to fail. But what does failure look like? Because when you lay it all out, usually it's pretty manageable. And if you can already be okay with the worst case scenario, well, then everything else is up from there. And so I would start with that. Second is, don't be afraid to start. So many people think that they can't do it, but that's because you don't have the skills. Neither did I. It's understanding that everyone on this earth has a different set of skills, as we talked about earlier. And some people love this stuff. I don't do my own financials because numbers and me, they like make me see dizzy, but I hire out to somebody who loves numbers. I'm pretty sure they dream in a life of numbers because they love them so much. So that's what you want to look for, is finding someone who can do things better than you can, because your skills aren't trained there, but theirs are. And then that's going to get you on a road to start. And I think from there, you just invest in understanding that your product's going to work, It's your product you start with on day one won't be the product you have at day 365. You want to always make improvements. You want to hear the feedback. People are going to tell you whether you want it or not, and take that and listen to what they're really saying, because sometimes it's things that you didn't think about. I'm not in every industry, but my light is. And the feedback I get sometimes makes me go, oh, I never thought about that. God, that makes so much sense. Because I am not in every industry doesn't mean that you can't improve your product to be part of that. So understand your feedback. And then I would just think that it is always about improving. You always want to be looking for what you can do to improve your product. At this point, you've already started. So congratulations on that. And improve and know that the sky's the limit, and just keep going. Don't ever give up. Don't let anyone tell you can't do it, because you can. Watch Shark Tank. See that everyone on there, maybe they don't all get investors, but they all have an idea and they all did it. And that is so inspiring sometimes, to watch people pursue their idea. And maybe it's not all going to be $1 million idea, but if you're gifted an idea, I think it's really cool to say that you made your mark in the world. You created something, and pursue that. And what else do I have? So many good little tidbits. But yeah, I would just say pursue your ideas, get started. You don't have to have all the skills. I call it cannonballing into a world of the unknown. I didn't have a clue what it took. And to be completely honest, if I did, I wouldn't have done it. And that's always the biggest nugget of information I can give someone is, had I known how much it took, I would have never, ever done it. But I didn't know. And I just knew I wasn't going to give up, and I was going to keep going until I got it. And now I can look back and realize all the skills that I had to learn, and all that learning curve from switching industries, and all that research I had to do was done because I had an interest that was stronger than me. I had this thing that just told me, you have to make this idea come to life. And so many people get stuck on the details of trying to figure out how to do it yourself. You don't know all the pieces of the puzzle, but focus on your idea and pursuing it, and then have people help you get you to the next level as far as what their specialty is, because they're going to improve your product. They're going to improve your idea, and just have the balls to go through with it. Because had I known what it took, I would have never done it. And I always think back to that as my biggest gift, is sometimes you don't want to have all the details. You want to have yourself going, I'm going to do it, and no one's going to tell me no. And you wake up each day and you go as hard as you can, making sure that you're going to launch your product. And then one day you get to where you are and it is launched, and you look back and go, wow, I learned so much and I gained so much skills and I did it. But I didn't listen to anyone that told me I couldn't. I didn't listen. I didn't quit along the way. When people told me, here's how much I needed money, I had to get creative with how to go find that. And we did. And it's just getting creative with things as well. So I urge everyone to get creative, pursue your ideas. Don't let people tell you no, and go out and do it.
Thanks for joining us and sharing your beautiful and very inspiring story, Mary. Indeed, for any entrepreneur, always the center line is, if others can, then why can't I?
Exactly. If I can do it, so can everyone else. Nike made their whole slogan of just do it. The reason they did that is because you literally just have to do it. And so many people get stuck on the starting line saying, I can't, but that's what you said to yourself. If you said you can or you can't, you're right. So what if you said you can?
That creates the whole difference then.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks, Mary. Finally, to our viewers, if you have any questions about e-commerce, paid acquisition, marketing, retention, or development, email us at ecom365@shopagain.io, and we will have them answered by an expert in the future episodes. This episode was sponsored by ShopAgain.io, an AI-powered customer retention platform. Thank you all for joining us.